again. Thanks for coming back. And if this is the first time you found us, I want to make sure you know this is the third lesson in a series, and I put a link to the playlist in the description underneath this video. So you might like this lesson just fine on its own, or you might want to go back and watch from the beginning. This is kind of fun though, because what I really want to talk about today is what chords are not. We've talked about how you can actually take a vacation from chords for quite a while. There's lots of things you can do that are fun and musical, and you spend some time on these other things that we're going to be talking about soon, and then come back to your chords. You will automatically be better at playing chords because of the other development that you've experienced. I'll just go ahead and tell you, I'm thinking of one student in particular. He had some people don't struggle with the chords at first, and some people do. Everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses. And this particular person just had a really tough time with chords at first. So we spent quite a bit of time just playing leads, some simple, a few notes he could improvise with. And I'm certain he's going to be a good lead player. He just really, it was just fun to see what he naturally did without me even telling him. But the point is, we did that for about a year, and then we went back to playing chords, and suddenly chords were not much of a problem anymore. I had given him some exercises too. So the point is, there are other things we can do to progress while we're waiting for our chords to start sounding better. You can take a vacation from chords if you want to, or just keep working on your chords and do some of these other things too. So it's important to know that chords are not necessarily the first thing. When I say chords, let's define that. For this lesson, when I say chords, I'm talking about either the typical first chords you're shown in a book, or a lot of beginner lessons will show you your D shape, your G shape, your C shape, your A shape, what else? B7, E, those are all major ones, and then there's the minor ones. But those chords are usually the first thing taught, but they're not a rite of passage. It's not like, that bridge in the Holy Grail, and there's the bridge keeper, and you got to answer the question correctly in order to be able to cross the bridge. You do not have to play chords first. You do not have to master your chords before you can learn other things. As a matter of fact, in the last lesson we talked about modifying, and if we go ahead and learn more things about understanding the guitar, well, understanding the fretboard and the relationships and the patterns is always going to help you to be able to modify for yourself when you run into a problem. And that's important, especially for players who are older or have injuries or arthritis. The typical things that are shown for a person whose fingers are in pretty good shape doesn't always work. But we can modify for ourselves. I had to do that quite a bit for a long time, and I had an injury, but my hands are getting better, and I'm don't have to do it as often anymore, but I used to have to do it quite a bit. Okay, so chords are not a rite of passage. You're allowed to go ahead and learn other things, and in fact, learning other things will help you with everything you want to do, especially if we're talking about understanding the fretboard and the relationships. That will help you be creative, and it will help you in every way. Chords are actually not essential to being a great guitarist. A lot of lead players hardly ever play a chord. I'm a little distracted because there's a delivery, but I think they'll just ring the doorbell and leave. I was saying how a lot of great, especially lead guitar players, they play all over the place and play all kinds of wonderful things, and you won't see them play any of these chords, actually. They're still using chords, but they're playing part of a chord, and that's really cool and fun when we start talking about that. Just play, one or two notes of the chord, and in the next several lessons, we'll be learning things about understanding the fretboard, so that, sorry, I'm totally distracted, but I don't want to start over. I'm trying to say chords are not essential, but knowing the shape of your chords is essential. So if you do take a break from chords, we'll be talking in the next few lessons about how the 3 basic chord shapes. Everything else is related to those 3 shapes, and that's fun to learn about. So the shapes are essential. Understanding the shapes and the relationships is essential to you having, some freedom to where you can solve problems, you can modify for yourself, and you don't necessarily have to play something exactly the way that it's shown to you. Chords are not, chords are not the first thing. They are often the first thing. I would say usually chords are the first thing someone will show you. But for a lot of people, chords are not a good place to start. Like the little boy I was telling you about earlier was having a tough time with chords, and we just spent time improvising. And with other guitarists, it helps a lot to spend some time playing melodies, one note at a time, and that's something we can work more. We're working our way up to that, but we could spend some time. If you're able to just poke around and find a melody, that's excellent. If you can't do that yet, if you have someone who can help you just play a melody on your guitar, that is a great way to get your fingers started. And if you play melodies for a while and then go back to playing chords, I think you'll find your chords have gotten a bit better. I really think, if you think about it, there's so many things we do in music that are kind of backwards. Like in the other lesson where I was putting the scoop in backwards. I don't know if you saw that one or not, but I've been wondering lately, why in guitar is chords the first thing that people want to teach? I can't think of, I really haven't thought of other instruments where typically we teach chords, even on piano. Piano is pretty easy. Do I have time to show you? I don't want to have a little keyboard I can get out. I don't want to get it out right now. Piano is actually a lot easier to play a chord. You could learn a C chord on piano your first lesson, and you won't have any trouble making a nice sounding C chord. And you could play a G chord, and you could actually play lots and lots of chords on your first lesson, and it's not difficult. But on guitar, it is. But most piano teachers the first thing you learn is a few melody notes. And most instruments are that way. For some reason on guitar, we just got this mindset that chords are the first thing. But they can be the first thing, but not necessarily. I really think it's great to spend some time playing one note at a time with some exercises, with some melodies, with the well-tempered work, which you will hear about more if you haven't heard about it yet. Let me show you something. This is an exercise I gave the student I told you about. Is this where? Yeah, this is where I want to be. I gave him an exercise really just focusing on the first finger and this finger. And you can do this anywhere on your fretboard. If you start with the ring finger on a fret, and then you skip a fret and play the note below. That is you could actually play just that. Whoa, whoa, if you've ever heard that in music. Whoa, whoa. Da-da. Just those 2 notes you could play around with. But you can also take that same shape and play it on the 3rd string. That was the 4th string I was on, by the way, 7th and 5th fret. And you can do the same shape on the 5th string. You can play things like and all of that is just It's not my objective to teach you how to play that, but I just want you to see there's a lot of things we can do with just 1 or 2 notes or that little shape on a few different strings. And it doesn't have to be rock and roll or blues. It could be something like this. I'm not even going to use left hand at first. It could be something like that. And you can do fun things instead of just making it a plain. You can work on dressing it up a little bit. All 1 finger. It takes practice to get the finesse in there, but physically it's much easier than playing chords. And if you have a friend who can play chords, you can play a melody, and that is so good for your musical development in so many ways, not just, you know, the fingers and the coordination and stuff. So playing melody notes or 1 note at a time or exercises like I showed you is really a good starting place, I think. I think it's a great starting place for everyone, and then some people can play chords first if they want to. Playing a chord, this is part of the mindset problem, I think, is we think of it as one, and that's one reason guitar is fun and popular. We do things for the brain, like we talked about last time, they're easy for the brain. It's like, oh, 1 shape. I learned my D chord. D chord is 1 thing. I learned the shape and I squeeze like that. Music, yay. We can think of chords as 1 thing, but it's not 1 thing. 1 string is 1 note. When we play chord, we're playing, well, on this one I'm playing 4 strings. So a chord is 2 or 3 or 6 notes, and we're really asking a lot if we're a beginner. And I mean, and it's not just 6 notes. Every note is left hand and right hand, getting things on the right string, getting things on the right finger, getting your pick in the right place. And if you're new at it, somebody's probably shown you lyrics and strumming and when to change, and it's all those things. So I just think that's why it's better to wait on chords sometimes. Chords are not dangerous. It's not like if your string buzzes, the chord police are going to come to your door and take you away. It won't happen. And I don't mean to make light of the anxiety. There is often a lot of anxiety with chords, and that's because our music is important to us. And that's a good sign. But it does help to accept them the way they are at first, and know that they'll get better, especially if you keep coming back to the guitar, fingers on frets, your chords will get better, don't worry. And lots of lessons coming up to give us fun things to work on that are musical, that will develop you as a musician in many ways, and then make your chords sound better. Okay, so thanks for liking and subscribing, and keep coming back. Lots of fun things. They're going to help make our chords sound better. Coming right up. Bye.